All right, James, so there's a public speaking presentation tomorrow at Oatlands House. 33 people will be in that room, plus organisers. In a perfect scenario, I will do that presentation, but a worst case scenario where I have to go take my wife to the delivery room, you'll have to take charge. Right, so first thing to understand about these people. Architects, builders, engineers. They don't give a fuck about you, right? You're a professional, you're a white collar, not someone they're interested in, so you have to appeal to their better nature. And there's one thing unanimous across all these people. They hate tax. We're not tax agents. You have to make it clear. First and foremost, guys, my name is James Halligan from National Financial Advice Alliance. Here to discuss something in reference to finance for both you as a business owner and for your clients. Something that you need to understand to firstly get your business working better, get your personal situation working better, but also something for your clients to understand and how do they get across the line. So about 20 minutes, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to go nice and fast. If you have any questions, I'll be here to answer some questions afterwards, okay? Fast-paced, high energy, they will fall asleep on you. These people generally aren't the kind who want to sit in a classroom and listen to your shit. They're there because they get CPD points, professional development points, so you have to get them interested. So my first thing when I walk in, ladies and gentlemen, show of hands, who loves paying tax? All right, who loves paying tax? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm used to talking about this conversation a lot because you, the taxpayer, the charity donation giver, the business owner, you go through the same thing every time. The normal business flow, Mr. and Mrs. Client, let me show you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me show you. It's tax, so business. Business makes money. Money then goes to wages and expenses. Then it goes through tax. And then just enough for lunch money. I see this time and time again, guys, when there is big dollars up here and there's only a little down there. Today's conversation is about ways and means to reducing that. So, show of hands, business owners in the room. Okay, large majority business owner. There will be a large majority of business owners, okay? So business owners. Now, if you're not business owners, guys, who has an intention to one day maybe be a business owner or a contractor? Absolutely. So, let's talk about structuring first and foremost. If you are here, business owner, expenses, tax, you. Where's the problem in this? Do you need the business to earn money? Absolutely do. Does your business have expenses? Yes. Now, can you grow those expenses? Yes, you can. But realistically speaking, if that audit comes, you're screwed, right? So we have to do things 100% by the book. The problem is the tax, right? The tax on what is left, if you're paying the company tax, you're paying your 30% tax. Afterwards, if you're earning more than $180,000, you have to pay the money on top. If it's tax paid, then the tax is reduced afterwards. Again, this is detailed stuff right now. I just want to talk about structuring. So, who's heard of a trust, guys? Trust, anyone? Cool. Who here has got a trust? All right. So I'm going to firstly explain the benefit of a trust. I'm going to explain the difference between a discretionary and a unit trust. And I'm going to show you how business owners use this towards their advantage. Has anyone here a single income earner in their household? Perfect. Who gives a shit about super? All right. A credit to you, sir. I think the majority of people in this room don't really care, but I'm going to show you why you should in just a second. So first, let's go trust. So you have here your company. You're the director of that company, right? Sure, what can you do? I would say it's a corporate trustee. Again, all information today, guys, is general in nature. But if you guys want to talk on a personal level, we shall afterwards. From your company, you have a unit trust. That unit trust cannot own an asset, but that unit owns units in your corporate trustee, and there's a discretionary trust. Unit trust, it can be It can hold units, but can't hold assets. It has to distribute all income at the end of the day. This is a safety mechanism, not a mechanism for tax. As a safety mechanism then, if somebody tries to sue you, God forbid, if someone's after your money, God forbid, as long as everything's established the right way, close it down, open again. There are limitations to that, of course, if you're giving personal guarantees, if you're not set up the right way. Talk to your accountant, talk to your lawyer, get set up properly. But the discretionary one is where I want to talk about the most. It's how do you actually channel your revenue. So with your discretionary income, there's a few things you need to understand. Who here does investments? Hands up, I'm sure a lot of you guys do. So in that discretionary trust, you should have an investment account. That investment account holds, as a company, an income. So let's say we're distributing $100,000. In that investment account, it's going to have expenses. You put that money, you put an allocation of a percentage of, let's say, 20% of the investment account. Now, you have an income, $18,900 as an example, because that's a 0% tax rate. Your wife has an income, $18,900, 0% tax rate. Superannuation trusts, Super 1, Super 2, yours and your wife's. Again, I'm going to talk about why Super is interesting in a second. But quite frankly, 0% tax, 0% tax. Investment account. So again, it's going to have expenses so you can whittle that tax substantially more when you're buying assets, when you're growing your portfolio. And then you have your superannuation accounts, which are taxed at 15% going in, compared to 0% everywhere else. Why this is very important. First things first, $18,900 each should cover a large part of your operating expenses, your lifestyle expenses, but again, we can increase that. What's important is that's a starting scale. If you figure out you need more for your personal life, do your budget. Your budget is crucially important. So if you can get that, figure out exactly what it is, that way we can split up to about 30K a pop as an example. Again, not an accountant, guys, not a lawyer. Consult those guys. This is designed to give you some scope as what businesses actually do need to manage their financial situation. With that investment capital remaining over, because after you've got your lifestyle expenses, which is your food, your roof over your head, all your personal items, your schooling, whatever it may be, then the rest is only really investment. Now the reason why people allocate themselves such low wages, obviously reduce tax, but where there's a problem is if they want to get financed, they can't get it. Which is why you need to get it through your discretionary trust. Because it's an individual entity. If you have got a bad credit history and your discretionary trust has got a good one, you can still get the loan and fill that investment portfolio. The higher the loans are here, then obviously less tax you're paying. So again, this is high level, guys. I've only got 20 minutes. I'm only here to be here for a short time. The next question is, of that agenda, of course, you're going to have to set this out according to yourself. Why is superannuation important? Super, I'm going to say you. Your individual situation. Compare the two. If I have exactly the same amount of investment assets, exactly the same shares, exactly the same property, exactly the same everything. If me and you do that, I'm going to do it in super, you're going to do it outside superannuation. Nothing else changes. The only difference is when you retire, for the rest of your life, you're giving half your money to the government. Again, you're the charity owner. Me, I'm going to give 0%. The simple point is, guys, the way superannuation works, all you need to know about it is it's got 4 different four different tax systems in Australia. As an individual, the highest tax earner is 47.5%. As a company, 30%. As a superannuation fund, 15%. In a retirement fund, 0%. So, Mr. and Mrs. Client, does it make more sense that in retirement, you're going to want to have a 0% tax return on all your investment? Absolutely, you've paid your bloody tax, that's why you're here. Well, if you see me, you haven't paid all your tax, but you've paid what you've been required to do. So simple point between 0 and 15%, guys, it makes a big difference, but 0 to 47.5%, every dollar you make, every dollar you've earned in your whole life, for the rest of your life, half going to the government, no thank you. Kerry Packer said it best, if I thought you were doing a good enough job with it, I'd give you it. So the simple point, guys, is superannuation. Don't eat into the hype. It is nothing but a facility, nothing more than like a trust. Whatever you want to do with it, you can do. Just make sure you do it properly and establish it the way you want to set it up. So there is a benefit inside superannuation. Now, again, I've got One more quick point to make. How am I doing on time, Julian?
10 minutes.
10 minutes past?
Yep.
Okay, so I want to talk about insurances. First, is everyone with me? Has everyone caught up? It's a short period of time, guys. I will answer some more questions, obviously, in our sessions. James is here with me to answer some questions for you. I do have to run. My wife's getting ready to give birth today. It's the 40th week today, and I'm about to go to get induction, which is why James is here, because I didn't know whether I still have time to do this. Anyway, let's talk insurances. Business, partnership, insurance, key man insurance. Who here has got a business partner? Anyone? Okay, it's a few. Me and my wife. You and your wife. We get along. We're business partners. We know what we're doing because me and you work very well together. Let's say you're the builder, you're the architect, we work together, we all get along. Now, you may love my wife as a friend and a sister. I may love your wife as a friend and sister. Does your wife make a great business partner to me? No. Does my wife make a good business partner to you? No. But if something happens to either of us, we cut our wives off and go, okay, now it's my business now. It doesn't work that way. They have to get each other's share. So there's something called business partnership insurance. That means me, you, wife. If I pass away, our insurance policy pays my wife her share of the business, the value of her share of the business, buying her out of the system, and you and your wife take over the business. And vice versa, the same applies this way, right? Why this is important? Because you may not have the money to pay me out if something goes wrong or pay her out, in which case the company is crippled, and vice versa. I may not have my money to pay you out. Just because we're worth a lot doesn't mean we have a lot, all right? Now the other one that's really important to discuss is key man insurance. So I know your brokers have talked to you about, public liability insurance, builder's insurance, all that sort of stuff. But guys, if you're an architect, hands up if you're an architect, you work by yourself, right? Builders, you're running the show by yourself. Everyone in here to some point or another is a key man or key person in the industry. So when we're talking about key person in the industry, what happens to the company if you go down? Your source of revenue is down, guys. You're solely reliant on you producing the work. An architect is paid for getting the work done. They're not paid for having the name to sign at the bottom, right? And no one can sign their name or form, no one can do the work for them. So if you are the key man in your business, you need to be insured. There's business expense insurance. So that if you are sick, if you're incapacitated, the expenses of the business are taken care of by the insurance as per usual. So you maintain and do what you need to do. These three should be considered interesting on a personal level, guys, because the business needs to go on without you. If you are self-employed, you need to cover that. All right? Any questions about that, ladies and gentlemen? That's your insurances. So far we've covered trusts, we've covered insurances, we've covered, what else have we covered? We've covered trusts, we've covered insurances, we've covered superannuation. Okay. Now guys, I just want to get back to this trust thing. It only really works if you've got a budget organized, right? If you don't know how much you're going to put for your personal income each year, then you're screwed, guys. You have to do a budget. Get an itemized plan, how much you spend on mortgage, how much you spend on car insurance, petrol, all this sort of stuff, guys, on a personal level, so you know exactly the lowest amount you can charge yourself. Because the lowest wage you get indicates the lowest amount of tax you're going to pay. You should only pay yourself exactly what you need. Not a cent more, the company can take care of the rest. Talk to your accountant about making sure that's organized. If you need help organizing a budget, also let me go, guys. I know that we need to splurge on things as business owners because we work our butts off, absolutely. This is a strategy on a financial level, guys. All right, last piece of the puzzle, and this is the one where you guys are gonna hate me from. Again, I've only got 20 minutes. I'll go into more detail on a personal level should you need me to. I just want to explain quick investment. Hands up if you guys understand property. Right, I'm pretty sure everyone in this room understands property, but I don't think everyone understands exactly where the risks lie associated with it, where the economic portion is. So I'm going to show you there's 4 different investments. First one is cash. This is risk, this is return. The higher the risk, the higher the return. Does everyone agree with that? If you risk more, then the chances are you're going to return more. You can also lose more, all right? Cash. Is there a risk of putting money in the bank account? Anyone? Yes, there is. Absolutely there is. Because the bank's not going to go bankrupt. But what's going to happen is if you're getting an interest rate of, say, 2%, do you have to pay tax on that? Yes. Let's say half that goes, you're down to 1%. If you put $100,000 in there, there's $1,000 left. You've made 1%. What's the inflation rate? 2.2 to 2.3. You made a 1.3% real loss. Now you may say it's just inflation, but if your parents put 50 grand underneath the pillow for you guys to buy a house 30 years ago, you would have bought a house. Today you're barely buying a letterbox. True? The next is interest. Now similar, bonds, growth, term deposits, all that sort of stuff. Similar risks, but very important. These 2 form your conservative. Next is property. Substantially more risky. I know some of you may agree, some of you may disagree, because a lot of you have probably made a lot of money off this. But simple things about property you need to understand. 25% of Australia's population is the baby boomers. They own 50% of Australia's property. 25% of Australia's population owns 50% of Australia's property. Of that demographic, the youngest of them is 6 years away from retiring. 6 years before the youngest of them retires. Now, if you have 50% of Australia's property, let's say you're heavy asset backed, but now you're cash flow poor because you're retiring. What may you be forced to do? Sell. So let's assume 2% of the demographic need to sell, only 2%. That's 4% of Australia's property that goes in the market. 4%. So now, supply is up, demand is consistent. Who's selling properties at the moment right now? How's the demand at the moment? Are you guys getting swarmed like you were a few months ago? What if supply increased? There used to be a backup measure. Migrants were coming and smashing all these properties and life was really good, right? But that's stopped. Why is that stopped right now? Because of government sanctions. They can't get as much through. So, is property more risky now than it's ever been? Abso-freaking-lutely. A really big risk in property, but off the back of the risk of property, it's all time, guys. If I have 2 properties right now, they're worth 500 grand each. Now they're worth 250 each. I may have lost 500 grand, but I only lose that money when I fish in to sell. As developers, guys, that's what we need to do. Sell. Right? Economically speaking, it will be down to the building market. I know everyone here is relying on that building market, keep it going steady. But the key is to understand that clients are understanding this right now. And there's going to be downward shift because you're going to say to yourself, oh, the new generation's coming through. 25% of Australia's population are the baby boomers. They're going to die. The poorest generation after them is their children. They only had super from the 8th of September 1987. That's when super came in from compulsory. If that's the case, guys, if they don't have enough to retire, so they may be forced to sell their asset as well. And they'll sell less of a price so they don't have to really earn it. Beyond that is equities, guys. So from these you get rent, you get dividends, and you get capital growth on both of them. Now, to be a proper investor, these are your growth investments, these are your conservative investments. You have to put a percentage in conservative, a percentage in growth. Does that make sense, Mr. and Mrs. Client? Does that make sense, guys? The simple point I'm making here, guys, is property right now is getting a little bit more tricky. For the reasons I said. And if you're going to sit there and say the new emerging demographic is going to pay for it, how many of your children without your help can afford to buy a $1 million house right now in the middle of nowhere? Right? $1 million, guys, is a $200,000 deposit to avoid LMI. If it doesn't, you have to put a $100,000 deposit to get 10%. LMI is going to be an extra $40,000 on top. Stamp duty is going to be an extra $40,000 on top. $180,000 in cash. How many of your children have that without you giving that to them? Right? And then beyond that, they've only paid 100 grand off for a $1 million loan. Firstly, I can't find a place for $1 million near my family. Right? So now you have a $900,000 mortgage. Your payments are $5,600 a month. If interest rates go up, what's going to happen to your kids? Context. Trusts, getting your money out of your business. Budget to make sure it happens. Insurance to make sure that no matter what happens, that money still comes in because it's all dependent on you. Your superannuation because you know what? I'm going to earn more money because I focused on it more than you guys did. by doing exactly the same thing. And lastly, investment, to make sure when you bring that money into your name, you build it adequately and don't just focus on property like everyone else has in the past. Hope I've made the 20 minutes, guys. Thank you so much.